Hello everybody, it's Brother Todd with your Victory Minute. I hope you guys are having a good day. I've had just a devil of a time trying to get this Victory Minute done today, so hopefully I'll get through this one. What I want to talk to you today is about being a friend. I got a lot of feedback from yesterday's Victory Minute where I talked about who you allow as a counselor, a friend, an influencer in your life. And usually when that happens, we get a lot of, it means people have got a lot of questions or there's things they're concerned about. So I was walking around here in the prayer garden thinking about making this minute, and rather than really talk about reopening and that kind of thing, I want to talk about this. We've been working on that quite a bit. In fact, if you watched yesterday's minute, you know what I'm talking about, where I talked about people being a counselor to you and that kind of thing. And we got some things coming up. We're going to talk a lot about it during the message, during the sermon this week. So be sure and catch it. In fact, it'll give you all the details about what we're going to do, reopening, that kind of thing. Our little plan is going to be a little bit different what most people are doing. And every time I say that, I grin because I think, oh Lord, here goes Victory again being different. We just can't help but be an odd egg. And but that's just us, you know. You got to be who you are. But I pray. I think God's really giving me a real stirring in it, and I'm getting more and more excited about it as we go. But anyway, I'll give you all those details. But out of that came yesterday's Victory Minute, where I was talking about these great counselors I've had in my life and have in my life, and good friends that I've got, and people that's got my back. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking about. And especially with the amount of feedback that we got, I thought I'd take a look at it from the other side. Not just who do you let in, but if somebody's let you in, how do you be a brother that's born for the day of adversity? How do you be a friend that loves at all times? And so the verse just kept going through my head. A friend loves at all times, and a brother's born for the day of adversity, Solomon said there in Proverbs 17. And so how do you be that, especially when the days are kind of tough? In fact, one of the reasons that I'm having trouble getting this little Victory Minute done is I've been talking about people that's been there for me in difficult times, and the amount of times I've got to be there, and it's the toughest privilege and blessing you'll ever have is being with people when times are hard and it's on days of adversity. Anyway, I've talked about a couple of them in this deal, and I got myself so sad that I couldn't really go on with it, you know, and it's just way too serious for one of these Victory Minutes. And so I just got to kind of thinking about some of those tough days, and that's where I just thank God for the men and women, and even boys and girls I've had in my life that have been there on tough days, and that I've got to be there in a lot of tough days. The truth is I don't know. I only know one preacher that's preached more funerals than I have, and that's our staff evangelist, Brother Jim Everidge. And he's been there on some tough days for so many people. You laugh with those that laugh, and you cry with those that cry. And there's a part of you that walks down through all of those days of tragedy and difficulty with people. And while I wouldn't have wanted to be anywhere else, they're not the easiest days to be here. And to be a friend at all times. When somebody's in their most difficult hour, that's where you really know who your friends really are. Fair weather friends can come and go, and one thing Christians don't need to be is fair weather friends. Somebody's let you into their life. They've let you be an influencer on days where the sun's up and the wind's blowing softly, so to speak. Then those same people, you need to be there for those people when the storms are up in their life. And this old world's got its heartbreak in it. The Bible says it rains on the just and the unjust. And so even believers, in fact, in a greater way, a lot of believers walk through a whole lot more difficulty than the children of this world. And so we have to be there, and we can't be there in an empty way. And so I was thinking about, how do you be that good friend? How do you become that brother, that sister that's born for the day of adversity, that the very reason God's put you in contact with their life is for some of those times. And I thought I would just take a moment and share some things I've learned about being that kind of friend. 3 things I just want to share with you today, especially for when it's tough, and we're going to have tough days. So what do you do? Maybe somebody you know and love is is right now in a tough time. You know, COVID-19, if it's done anything, it's made it worse. It's made it harder to grieve. What way we're having to do these funerals and things like that. It's just tough times. People losing their jobs. People don't know what's going to happen. Their realities have been shaken. What do you do? What do you do to help? And because we can't be people that are as Christians, just people of empty cliche and sentiments. In fact, I share with a lot of the people out on the internet, though. One of the reasons they do this is, you know, they're trying to make fun of Christianity or something like that. But you know, they you get on the internet, throw out, well, I got you know, thoughts and prayers for you. It'll get slapped back on you pretty quick in the comment section, because thoughts and prayers, prayer without prayer is just an empty sentiment. What does that mean? Our thoughts and prayers are with you. Our thoughts and what does that do? How does that help? A friend is born for more than just thoughts and prayers. And now you say, Brother Todd, prayer changed things. You ain't kidding, it can. But how many times you told somebody, I'll pray for you and then not pray for them? Or I'm praying for you when you're not praying for them, right? It's a word that sounds good, but it's not really engaged. One of the greatest things you can do as a friend is pray for your friend. But I mean to pray for them by name, by need. Specific prayers get specific answers, right? We can't be cliche. Okay, it's just not going to work. And so what do you do? What do you do? Well, one, if you can, be there. Be there, okay? Well, Jack's up in his tree or not. Jack's one of our church cats. He likes to chase birds in this tree. Thought I heard him. But anyway, is be there. You know, we live in a world today, everybody wants to send somebody a text. Live in a world, everybody wants to just make it as easy as possible, thinking about you, that kind of thing. There ain't nothing like showing up. I'm gonna try not to get myself bent out of shape like I have before, but I'm gonna tell you something. I got folks in my life, some I ain't seen in 20 years. I'm gonna tell you what, something tragic happens, watch the door, because they're coming. They're coming. They're gonna be there. I've walked up in the front yard of people I ain't seen 15 years and lived in different parts of the state. Something tragic happened. I walked across that front yard, and they said, Todd, I knew you'd come. And we just pick up right there from where we were. I got people that I see just about every day. If something happens, we're just gonna be there. Just being there, being a help, letting them know that you're there, you love them. You ain't gotta show up and fix it. I used to just be, I'd be so nervous, and I'd have so much anxiety about, Lord, I can't fix this. What am I gonna say? What am I gonna do? Well, you know what? Just be there. I've learned that that's one of the biggest things there is walking with them in that difficulty. I've walked up on so many friends in tough days. I've seen people, God help them, they didn't want to see me. I turned out of that, been talking to that doctor. I've been out there on that street talking to that highway patrolman. When I turn back, start walking to them, tell them I love you, but I got something tough to tell you. And I'm glad I was able to stand in those moments with them. If you can't do nothing else, you sit there and cry with them. And but just be there. Be there is it, man. I mean, man, fix them something to eat, show up, just walk in the door, and be praying for them. Secondly, is when it's tough, you got to listen. You really got to listen. You know, I'm a man that I talk. Talking's what I do. It's what God's got me on this planet to do. But there's also times you got to be silent. You know, there's a time to speak. There's a time to be quiet. And when the times are tough, it's not time for you to show up and tell everything you know. It's not time for you to show up and give every theory you got. It's not time for you to show up and repeat every Christian cliche you've ever heard. You know, I know Romans 8:28 says all things work together for them that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. But you know what? You better make sure that it's a word fitly spoken before you look at a man just lost his 7-year-old daughter in a car wreck. Like I've heard some preachers say. You better be listening. You better be finding out where they're at. Find out what they can hear. A word fitly spoken. How good it is. Say, Brother Todd, it's true. Well, yeah, I know. There's a lot of things true, guys. That it ain't the easiest thing to. It's not poured out like medicine on somebody. Lord help, I can take a Bible with truth. I can cut the heart out of somebody. Okay, but it ain't how God wants me to use it. All right, you gotta be faithful with it. You gotta know where they're coming from. I listen to people when things are difficult until they start repeating themselves. And then I know if God's given me a word to say, I say it. And if not, you just sit there. Job's friends, Eliphaz and Bildad, what was the other's name? Zophar. Everybody gives them a knock for sitting there for 7 days and not saying anything. You know what? They's there. They's there crying. They's there mourning. They loved Job. They made some mistakes about their assumption. Most of what they said was true, but their assumptions were wrong about Job being guilty or this or that. God squared them up over that. But you know what? They was there. They listened for 7 days before Job started talking. Chapter 3, Job basically cursed the day he was born. And he talked there a little bit, and then one of them would respond. And again, they might not have done it all perfect, but they was there and they were listening. They knew where he was. They were willing to be connected to him. And one of the best things you can ever do as a friend is just be there. Sometimes I'm probably about to go back down the road of being sad again, but I remember one time the hardest listening I ever did was I was sitting beside a guy who wanted to hurt himself. And I don't know if I'll tell all these. I don't want nobody knowing the details on this guy. But anyway, I sat down to help him, and he was just there sad. And I sat down beside him. He was leaning against a tire of a pickup truck. And I sat there beside him and hunkered down there. And anyway, I was in fire ants. And it was like the Lord just said, you just hold. You just hold. And sometimes it's all you can do. But I couldn't let him be alone in that moment. And he would know if I'd have stepped up, things might have went wrong way. Sometimes you just gotta be there. Just listen. Some of you in ministry, some of you preachers, I would say young preachers, but you older ones got worse problem than this than the young ones do, is you got to learn to hush your mouth. And it ain't time for everybody in the room to know what you think. It's time for God to give them what only He can. And if He doesn't give them deep in their spirit what they really need, you blabbering on about stuff ain't gonna give it to them anyway. There's times we ought to be praying in our mind and our mouths be closed. And then the Lord will give you those words to speak. And when He does, you be brief. You be scriptural, and you use Scripture. Scripture is like a song anyway. You know, a song can say more in 3 minutes than I can say in 30 minutes. And a Scripture can get its point across, and the Lord can give its point across. You look at how brief a lot of the messages are, sermons are in the Bible. They got to the point. I know I'm probably preaching to myself here about coming up on Sunday, but there's a time for exhortation of the whole thing, and there's a time to make your main point. Everybody around here, kids, say if you want to hear Brother Todd preach less than 20 minutes, you got to show up to a funeral. Because why? Because I can only give them what they can really endure in the moment. I don't need to give them 20 things. I need to give them one thing. I need to give them something that's going to give them peace, going to give them hope. Wherever God's moving them at in that point of life, it's all they're going to hold on to anyway. And be brief. And don't go in there with a bunch of cliche. Don't worry about what you're going to say. The Spirit will give you things to say. Just be there and listen. And when you talk, make sure that it sounds like an angel from heaven's got something to say straight from the throne of God. And if you don't have something fresh, you keep your mouth closed. Be there. Listen. When you speak things that are going to help them. You know, when you're listening to folks, sometimes when they're hurting, they're not going to act real scriptural. Sometimes they're going to have their worst day. I've seen some good saints cussing a blue streak. I've seen some good men, drunk as they could be, just trying to go through. You just got to be there. You got to help them. You got to just touch them. You got to hold them. And when they can't hardly walk, you got to walk with them. When they can't get up, you got to help them get up. It's what Christ does for us. And that's being a good friend on a tough day. Be there. Listen. When you say something, you recognize that what you say may influence the rest of their life. You carry them through. I know it's a little serious one today. I just thought with all the comments I got that maybe somebody is having a tough day and maybe you can be there to help them. And if so, then maybe this little Victory Minute will be a help to them. I love you. I'm praying for you. I hope you have a great day. I know it's a little heavy today, guys. It ain't always easy in life. It ain't always sunshine's fair and the wind is light. Sometimes there's storms. And if you're going to be a good friend, you got to be with somebody in the storm. Well, I love you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.